Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Dumpster Fire 3.2, here part of AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be. I'm Josh. After a little 2-week hiatus due to the 4th of July, I am back. Quite a bit of a wacky 4th of July now, wasn't it? I went down to the parade early in the morning with my family, and at that time it was actually quite a bit of fun. The weather had cooperated. We thought, it actually might be a really good day. And then later on in the afternoon, we decided, hey, we're going to go to the Greeley Stampede. You know, that's a yearly tradition. We do that every year. And it was all fun and games till the rain hit. And then the rain wouldn't stop. And it just wouldn't stop. And it was the first time my family and I had been all together at the Stampede in a good 4 to 5 years. No, actually about 5 years, if not more. And then it just became a mess. The rain kept hitting. I had gotten tickets to the carnival rides from a friend of mine because she didn't use them the day that she was out there. So she gave them to me and she said, hey, I think you can find use for these. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, sure, I'll gladly take it. Maybe get on a couple rides. I haven't been on those in a while. And then what happens? The rain hits, the carnival rides shut down. A lot of the music was shut down. We hid under one of the big shelters at Island Grove from the rain, and they had one of the free stages right next to us. And at first we thought, maybe if the rain calms down, they'll bring a band out. No, when they saw that the rain wasn't stopping, they just said, okay, that's enough. They even started to tear the stage down before anything, how do I say this? They had music scheduled going until 10 p.m. and it was about 6, 7 o'clock and they were already tearing the stage down, like completely down. Because they were like, nope, we can't do anything anymore. And, I get it. Mother Nature, you won this one. They did set off the fireworks at about 8:45, but it was a very, very small, it was a very shortened fireworks show. They basically shot off all the big ones and that was it. Which is like, okay. Before that, we had chosen, it's like, let's just call it a day and go home because we saw on the radar on our phones that the rain was going to pick up again, and it most certainly did. By the time we got back to the car, it was starting to pour again. A bunch of the streets were starting to pool up water while we were downtown. It was a nightmare. But we got back home safe and sound. It was still a very memorable 4th of July despite Mother Nature not cooperating with us. But it looks like at least temporarily the rain might be behind us. So let's go ahead and get a quick check here of your weather. Currently in Fort Lupton, we're looking at 85 degrees, a high of 97, a low of 60, sunny skies, wind gusts of a whopping 4 miles per hour. In Loveland, we are currently looking at 84 degrees, a high of 97, a low of 63, sunny skies, wind gusts of up to 2 miles per hour. In Windsor, we are currently looking at 79 degrees, a high of 97. Ooh, that's toasty. 60 for the low, sunny skies, no wind. And on the home campus of Greeley, we are currently looking at 88 degrees, a high of 98. Híjole. Low of 61, sunny skies, and wind gusts of a whopping 6 miles per hour. It's going to be toasty out there. If you are going to be out there enjoying the sun, maybe actually being able to check out an outdoor pool for once, because with all this rain, we just haven't been able to go. Me and a friend of mine, we've been going swimming a few times, and really the only place we've been able to go is the Funplex, because it's indoors because of all this bloody rain. So if you are going out to the pools today, wear plenty of sunscreen. Stay hydrated, please. Dehydration is no bueno. No bueno. And with that, I will go ahead and let it get back to the music here on AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be. Up next, we got Best of You by Foo Fighters. Enjoy. And welcome back to AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be. This is the Dumpster Fire 3.2. I am Josh. Right now, we just got a couple of minutes more until the top of the hour, so I'm just going to go ahead and let it play out here. But I just did want to go ahead and let y'all know what's coming up here on the show. We are going to be discussing just a couple of things here that have been happening over the summer, mostly in the entertainment realm. I'm going to be going into just a little thing on my thoughts here regarding arguably, some may say it's the most talked about TV show of the year. Some may say it's the worst, just depending on who you ask. But I will be going into detail, at least as much as I can, given the confines of the FCC regarding The Idol. Yes, that HBO show. But also, I'm going to be going on to talk about not just one of the most significant moments this summer, but arguably a massive moment in a few weeks in cinema history. We're talking about Barbenheimer. I will go into detail about what all this could mean. Coming up after the top of the hour, this is AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be, and I will go ahead and let it go back to the music. And welcome back to the Dumpster Fire 3.2 here on AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be. I'm Josh. That was a little bit of a longer hiatus there, folks. I just had to get some things sorted out here on the production side of things, but I thank you all for hanging in there. And now I will go into our segment for today. The Idol. Holy smokes. This show. There were a lot of people that didn't finish watching it if they watched it at all. This show was beset by production problems. About 80% of the way through shooting the series, the original director left the show. And originally it was... So the original plot of the show was a pop star basically falls prey to a cult leader, and basically it's supposed to expose like the dark side of the music industry. And the whole story was supposed to be about how this pop star was going to regain her freedom. And I was drawn to it just because The Weeknd was actually one of the creators of the show. He actually stars in the show as the cult leader. And if you know anything about me, and I mentioned it a lot on the show, I am a huge fan of The Weeknd. So naturally, I was like, okay, I'm hooked on this. Had a really good team behind it. A24 was the production company behind the show. It seemed like they had a really good team together, a really good cast together. And it seemed like, oh, if it's going to be on HBO, HBO has been the home of prestige drama and these high caliber shows for decades now. You know, they've had Succession, The Sopranos, The Wire, The Last of Us, Game of Thrones, Deadwood, Oz. Like, the list is so big of prestigious drama shows on HBO. So I thought, oh, this is going to be no different. It's going to be another home run. And then about 80% of the way through the show, the original director did leave. And she was replaced by Sam Levinson. This name is going to become very important. And at first I had hope because Sam Levinson is the creative force and the creator behind Euphoria, which was a massively successful show on HBO. You know, obviously it's got the great production values, the great cast, the insane cinematography. However, one of the many, many common criticisms of Euphoria is the fact that it is an extremely graphic show. It obviously deals with some major taboo events. Obviously, you know, it's teenagers in high school. You know, there's drug use, there's intimacy, but the show tends to take it to a whole other level because since it's on HBO, they can get away with doing so much more. But a lot of the common criticisms of Euphoria was that the show spends so much time on those scenes and puts so much emphasis on these very graphic scenes that it takes away from the story and the characters. And in a way, it really kind of does. I've watched all of Euphoria. I'm obviously a very big fan of Euphoria. But being a fan of Euphoria, I also notice that there is this emphasis on these particular scenes. You know, it kind of makes it hard for me to watch these shows with my parents. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And The Idol was no exception. Obviously, the cinematography was spectacular. That's just a trademark of any Sam Levinson project, whether it's Euphoria, whether it's films he's done such as Malcolm and Marie that's on Netflix. That there's so much focus on the style that it takes away from a lot of the substance, or in this case, the substance is so altered and distorted that you just kind of get lost. The Idol, at least the incarnation of the show that we saw on air, rather than being like this kind of intriguing, deep, dark dive into the horrors potentially of the music industry and a lot of the underbelly of it, instead, it was reframed into a twisted love story between The Weeknd and Jocelyn, who was played by Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter. And almost from minute one, there is just this emphasis on graphic scenes, drug use, just graphic intimacy scenes. And these aren't like little peaceful, like movie intimacy scenes. Like, no, these are, I'm going to be honest, a lot of them are kind of disgusting. And while watching behind the scenes interviews with the cast and crew, that was their intent, to be, you know, to be disgusting. The main character, Tedros, who is the cult leader, is very, very much a sleazebag. There's no attempt to hide who he is, which I believe may have thrown a lot of people off, because a lot of cult leaders, especially a lot of the ones that we've seen throughout history, tend to be very charismatic, to be very convincing, because they have to be able to lure people into their cults. Tedros was the complete opposite of that from minute one. His character is just a complete sleazeball, and they make no attempt to hide it. And I get that's what they were trying to go for, maybe try to like go against type, which also seems kind of odd because The Weeknd himself, he is a very charismatic individual. I mean, he sold millions of albums and he's got a sold out stadium tour going on right now. He's got the voice of an angel, you know, despite some of the lyrics in his songs. Like he's a very charismatic individual. But seeing him go into this complete other opposite as Tedros, who is this very sleazeball-y character. Keep in mind, this character has a rat tail. And one of the big jokes running throughout the entire show is that you never trust a person with a rat tail. So it was very kind of odd. And there are very many scenes where the cringe factor is turned up to 10. And I get that was their deliberate intent, to show just how much of a sleazeball he is. But it does tend to, they took it to, at least in my opinion, to such a level that rather than trying to be progressive with it and be like, and try to make a statement, they went to such an extent that in a way it kind of held the show back. There were some really good performances. Even The Weeknd himself, a lot of people said like, oh, his acting is so cringe. And it's like, I don't really agree with that statement. I feel more like this character was written and designed in such a way to be cringy and gross. So I don't think it was so much his acting. I think if anything, he did his part, because that's the whole point of this character of Tedros. The rest of the cast, very, very stacked. You had Eli Roth, you had Davine Joy Randolph in there. There was Troye Sivan, Susanna Son. There were a lot of great people in this show. The Lily Rose Depp had a lot of, in between all of the graphic scenes, she had a lot of really strong emotional scenes. There's one, and I don't really mind being a spoiler if you're actually going to watch the show. Spoiler alert, be warned. There is one very big dramatic scene where Jocelyn is filming a music video, but she is so obsessed with perfection and changing everything that she keeps asking people to do more and more and more takes, because she's like, no, I know I got it right. Like, she argues with the music video director. The director says, no, we got the scene down. She's like, no, I can do it again. Just do it one more time. And she gets to the point where the story begins, or let me backtrack. Where the story begins is Jocelyn is recovering after she lost her mom. She had a nervous breakdown, and that led to the cancellation of her tour. And she's just trying to get back onto her feet, and she's been working on her big comeback single. And in the process of shooting this music video, she's pushing herself so hard that she begins to slip into another moment of panic, again, to the point where she starts to laugh maniacally and call out for her mom. She's a very good actress. Another scene where she's arguing with Tedros, and it is also, once again, a really good scene. She is a very, very good actress, and that scene was probably the weekend's best scene in the entire show, because we really see just how manipulative and kind of sleazy Tedros really is. So there were great performances overall in this show, but I do feel that there was just so much emphasis on trying to be shocking that in the end it kind of backfired, where nobody really thinks of the story, and then the story itself takes a very, very, very weird turn with no precedent whatsoever. So by the end of the show, and like I said, a spoiler alert if you are planning on watching the show, which I know many of you aren't, so you were warned either way, where by the last episode, Jocelyn appears to have reclaimed her freedom. She kicks Tedros out of the house. She takes the fellow cult leaders as basically her own, and she uses them as opening acts on her tour. But then we get to the very end of the scene. It's opening night of her tour. Tedros shows up, and at first we think, oh, he's going to do something crazy. We find out that Jocelyn summons him to come to the tour. You know, everything's confusing. Everybody thinks, oh, maybe he's going to get his comeuppance. And he does, but not in the way that you would expect. Jocelyn ends up inviting Tedros to her dressing room, and they kiss, you know, I miss you, yada, yada, yada. Before too long, the show begins. Jocelyn brings Tedros out onto the stage and introduces him as the love of her life. Her record label executives are flabbergasted because it seemed like they had finally gotten rid of Tedros and he was going to be gone. And he's right there. They are flabbergasted. She kisses Tedros right in front of God and everybody on the stage. And the audience can't hear this, but she tells Tedros, you're mine forever. Now go stand over there. So it's a complete other swerve. So apparently, rather than Tedros using Jocelyn, Jocelyn was using Tedros? It makes zero sense. There is no precedent at all for it in this show. And in a lot of shows, because it was known that there was a lot of the show that was reshot and reframed, you can tell very much that there are certain scenes where you can tell that probably came from the original incarnation of the show, and then what they tried to redo when Sam Levinson took over. And the ending felt very much like something Sam Levinson did. Made zero sense. There was no precedent in it really at all for the show. The first 4 episodes, it's only 5 episodes long, are pretty much Tedros getting to do whatever he wants with Jocelyn and make Jocelyn his personal puppet. And then all of a sudden, in the span of about 20 minutes in the show, it goes from that to apparently Jocelyn was using Tedros all along. It was a very bizarre ending, and you can do that kind of story, but you have to set the proper beats. And that's all I really got to say on The Idol. Will I ever watch it again? I don't know. I mean, I am a diehard fan of The Weeknd, and I will buy a box set of the show, honestly, for preservation reasons, because right now Max has had this trend of getting rid of shows. So I want to at least have that part of the show's existence, regardless of whatever people may think of it. You know, sooner or later, it might be a collector's item. I might just leave it shrink wrapped. We'll see. But now up to the big thing, and then that'll do it for the show. There is the cinematic event of the summer. I called it Barbenheimer, and let me go into detail about it. July 21st, Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, obviously incredible director. This movie has a very stacked cast. Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Simu Liu, Dua Lipa, Kate McKinnon, John Cena, Will Ferrell, America Ferrera. That's just the tip of the iceberg. This movie has an extremely stacked cast. And it seems like they're taking the idea of Barbie, and it seems like they're kind of poking fun at it in a way. It's really hard to explain. You just have to watch the trailers and the TV spots for yourself. But it seems like they're making this very kind of meta surreal kind of thing where they're kind of making fun of the whole idea of Barbie, but they're also embracing it. It actually looks really cool, and I am going to go see it. Obviously complete opposite color palette. So much pink. They actually used so much pink in the production of the movie that actually caused a paint shortage of that color. So much pink. It's not even funny. And up next after that, we have Oppenheimer coming out the same day. Christopher Nolan film. He is obviously a virtuoso of the art of cinema. The Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Inception, Tenet. This man is a master. It's about J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb. Absolutely stacked cast as well. And this is also, too, just the tip of the iceberg. Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Jack Quaid, Gary Oldman, and that's just tip of the iceberg. Kenneth Branagh. There's so many people in this movie. And it's going to be a masterpiece, not just in storytelling, but in filmmaking itself. It was revealed that when they recreated the Trinity test, which was the very first nuclear explosion ever made, they recreated it with no CGI. It was all practical effects. How in the world? No one knows. The point is they did it. And Christopher Nolan has gone on record to say that there are 0 CGI shots in Oppenheimer. How in the world do you do that? Who knows? They actually had to invent black and white 70mm film because it didn't exist prior to this movie. Black and white 70mm IMAX film. A majority of this film was shot in either 70mm or IMAX. This is a technical marvel of a movie. Regardless of whatever the story may be, it is absolutely insane. Both movies are coming out the exact same weekend, and there are many people that are planning on going to watch both. AMC Theaters just reported yesterday that over 20,000 members have bought tickets to watch both Barbie and Oppenheimer on the same day, hence the term Barbenheimer. One movie is this surrealistic pink fantasy satire meta thing, and the other one is basically a horror movie about the man who gave mankind the tool to destroy itself. I'm going to watch both the same day. I'm going to pull a Barbenheimer. It's going to be almost 6 hours of just sitting there, but I'm going to do it. And that about does it here for the show today. We are coming up here on the top of the hour. Up next, we got Young Blood by Naked and Famous. I do thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday. This was a dumpster fire, and you were all warned.